What Dubai to London? I've got a relative that's going there. What's that? 7 hours at least, right?
7 hours, yeah.
So,
And
so
then,
and how
yeah,
from Dubai to Bangkok? How many hours is that?
that was about seven, about 8 hours actually, 8 hours, 8.5 hours.
8.5 hours from Dubai to Bangkok.
Yeah, that was long.
Oh
Yeah.
my days, that's mad.
So you're
Wow.
just staying in the airport, like in between these flights?
Yeah, I was staying in the airport in between the flights. I almost missed my flight going to Dubai, so I had to run like crazy. I mean, I was sweating all over the place. It was not dignified, but I couldn't miss the flight, right? Yeah, it would you stay in the airport for about 5 hours each time, sometimes 6 hours, and just read, sleep, um, and that's it basically. But
Wow.
you
So
see,
Dart, now I got a offhand question here for you.
yeah.
Your accent, are you posh?
There you go. See now, this is. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Actually, I'm gonna be. I'll be honest, right? So I do a course in. I work in a hospital. I just started working in a hospital, right? I was
Yeah.
born in a council estate. My family are manual workers, right? Mum's a care support worker. Dad was a mechanic, right? Um, and I took education seriously. I don't look down on people. I just said, you know what? If I'm going to speak the language, I'm going to speak it this way. I don't put it on. This is my accent, and I work in a hospital, so I can't speak any other way, really. You know what I mean? I can't. Be honest. I know. It sounds posh. I can't change that. You know what I
If
mean?
it, you said you grew up in, I'm not knocking it at all. I love having an accent when it's posh, it's interesting. It's just never, I personally never had the need for it, but I don't knock it any mean. Did you grow up in London, or did you grow up in like outskirts like Canterbury or something?
I grew up in London, but I lived in like northwest, so like Harlesden. Then I moved out to Wembley.
But
So
those areas are pretty like, cause I used to deal with a lizard from those parts, and those areas ain't no joke for the people that may be listening and thinking. Those Halsden and Wembley, I used to go up to Wembley Central, the station, and then I'd take the bus into. It was more Wembley Central, and if you keep going, I believe the 266 would take me past into Halsden and then to Hammersmith Station. But Halsden ain't no joke. It's relatively goon central. So talking in
yeah,
yeah, I'm just keeping it real. And from what you're saying, London doesn't change. It doesn't really change. So it's not gotten any posher with any gentrification unless I'm severely
it has. I'll be perfectly honest. In zone one, zone two, central London, places like Brixton, places even Peckham, the people are being moved out of London and put into Stoke and Manchester and other places, so they could build new flats for rich Arabs and Russians to live in central London. They're purifying. I hate to use that word, but that's what they're doing apparently, and they're pushing people out. It's really bad, especially in central London. It's that they're pushing poor people out. This is what's happening in London.
are they giving them any cash incentives to move, or they're just kind of raising prices and forcing them to look for jobs elsewhere?
So if someone has social housing, they'll just refuse to renew the contract. They'll say we are going to house you outside of London, and you have no real choice because you don't own the house. So the government will just make them move and demolish the housing and build a flat where the majority of the flats belong to private companies, right? Um,
Wow.
and that's just how it is. And Boris Johnson, I don't know if you know him, he does that. He just pushes people out so they get more rich people in and tax them more and get more money.
And what are people doing? Like, how's their strategy if they just had to bite the bullet and deal with it and hopefully find a job? If do you know any that have gone through that, or it's just pretty much left to the wind?
No, I know a couple of people who had to move to Stoke, so they go from London to Stoke, and Stoke is not exactly the most multicultural places, I gotta say. And they had no choice. They just get a message saying we are going to, you know, knock down this council housing, and you will be moved to Stoke, and this will happen at this date. And if you want to complain, here's a phone number, but nothing gets done, and they get moved to Stoke.
See,
That's just
see how the British do it. You know what I'm
So
saying?
to translate for people that are maybe maybe MoMA you can trigger, but it's like someone living in New York City in a housing project, and they're knocking down the housing project, and they're moving you to, shall we say, Dayton, Ohio? Would that be right?
Is Ohio that Ohio's far, man? I don't know if Stoke. How far is
Well,
Stoke to be?
Stoke is like northern England, though, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, Midlands.
Midlands.
That's like Birmingham, right? Like Birmingham-ish.
Yeah.
Lenny Henry kind of area, like the Midlands. Birmingham's like an hour away from London. Ohio is not an hour. So let's say,
No, but in relation.
yeah, because it's like a totally different environment. So yeah, for an American listen, it's like you've been pretty much taken out of state. You've left your state pretty much because even though the proximity is smaller, because people tend to operate within those smaller proximities, an hour away, you might as well just say you live in Georgia and someone's like, oh, you got to
Or
move to.
Buffalo. Okay, let's say Buffalo. You know, you're moving from New York City and you've been upstate, moved upstate to say Syracuse or somewhere like that. You know,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah. It's a total transplant. It's crazy. So, Dark Knight, with your accent, like growing up, since you were on the ends, did people kind of get at you in a certain way, or did lizards kind of look at you like, kind of make fun in to a certain degree, or not really?
Oh, no, this is that's a great question actually. Thanks, Mo. And that's a very good question. Yeah, I got sick. Yeah, of course, because I went to a comprehensive school, which basically means it's a normal school, normal secondary school, right? And I had a lot of brothers and yeah, as in black guys, and I was good at sports, thank God, right? So that helped. But yeah, you got sick because if you put your head down, wanted to work, study, um, you yeah, 266. Yeah, yeah, I know that password. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. If you put your head down, wanted to work, study, spoke properly, I doesn't sound posh to me, but I guess it is. You got picked on, right? And if you didn't go chasing white women, or if or didn't bash black women, you got a bit of stick for that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I did got some stick, but I didn't get stick from teachers at all. No, it was fine. But yeah, from other classmates, you get the comments, right?
Period.
So,
So
Sorry,
bashing
sorry.
black
Yeah,
lizards, is that the new trend in London now? Get white lizards and bash black lizards. Is that how it goes
oh
now?
yeah, that is the new game. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, the place is just going into the toilets, man. I can't. It weren't. I mean, I didn't get that when I was in school. It was more just get girls. You know what I'm saying? Get them somehow. People start to, what I'm saying, question you, and you were forced into game, which I've mentioned before. It wasn't even a case of let me see what's going on. If you didn't, people would be calling me, chichi man and all that. They're like, well, you don't have no girl for what's wrong with you? What? You like, man, they move, and you'd be like, damn, I better get out and start doing some road game before I get. You know what I'm saying? They come after me with torches and and chains and stuff like that. But yeah, that's interesting. The bashing of black lizards and
yeah. Sorry, Mo. Where's that coming from?
Where's it coming from? Well, I'll be. Oh man, I've got some statistics. I think in America you have the Center for not cent, you have some organizations that look at like epidemiology, so they check out like trends across populations. But from what I see in London, Eastern Europeans, they just come in. We've got a lot of Eastern Europeans because the EU expanded, right? They come in, they have very low body mass index. They're very slim, right? The body mass is down, low body fat, and they look good, model type frames. For whatever reason, the sisters are just they're just heavier on average. I'll be perfectly honest, and it's obvious, and you see it, just a lot heavier, and not in a curvy way. Just not just showing a lack of care. You know what I mean? Clearly, haven't been to the gym. You never see that many sisters running in central London, or London as a whole doing jogging. It just is not seen, and I think that goes some way in 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 in, in Yeah.
Yeah, I know that EU lizards are that because of the EU expanding into EU for those listening is the European Union, and Britain is part of the European Union, even though Britain has not incorporated the euro into their currency because Britain is a financial stronghold of the world, and to enter the to incorporate the euro into their currency would take away that strength. So Britain is still held on to the sterling pound, but I know that Ireland uses the euro. Britain doesn't do it, but I guess part of being part of the European Union is that they've expanded to the Eastern European countries, which are have been poor for a while. So now Polacks, the Polish are coming in, Ukrainians, Russians, etc. Dark Knight can correct me if I'm wrong. It's interesting that you spoke about weight issues. We mentioned that in a previous podcast that the weight issues are now spreading, and especially to the Anglosphere, and it's affecting all communities, which is why, when we spoke on that before, and I have not been in London for a while, but I'm guessing that it's getting worse. Can you throw out some average stats that you may say, and I can do the translation? What is the pounds? Not the pound. What is the stones of a lizard that you might see? Let's say she's 5'8", and you see her. How many stones is she gonna be? Where
Uh,
guys are like rare.
I'm gonna go kilograms. What, like on average?
Yeah, like you see some, you're like, oh, she's probably about. I'm not good at the kilograms. I can do stone translation well. She like 14. Are they doing kilos in London now? They still doing
I do
stones.
kilos, man. It's all kilos.
They've
It's all
turned to kilos, yeah.
kilos.
Oh, so they've abandoned the stones. Okay, well, okay. So what kilos are we talking? Is she?
Five
Um,
eight.
yeah, let's say she's 5'8". You see her, or 5'6", 5'7". What kilos is she carrying?
Just as a whole, like all different ethnic.
Average,
Yeah,
average.
like a black lizard, you look at her and you be like, because
That
here, they're usually like 200 pounds plus here.
80. If she's a 7 out of 10, she's eight. I'll say 80. 75 to 85 kilograms would be a 7 out of 10. That's not average. Average, you're looking between 85 95 kilograms. I'm not even joking. I
Yeah,
don't.
that's
Holy
that
cow! I
that.
think I weigh that. I mean, my last girlfriend, she was from, or last serious girlfriend, she was from Hungary. She was 5'1" and 45 kgs.
Nice.
And
Yeah,
you're telling me numbers double than that? That's what? That's 200 pounds.
they're getting worse, man. It looks like it's the guys, the brothers are by necessity really looking outside of that because you can't have your and the UK guys are still pretty slender. They're not hulksters like some of them are over here. So a guy would find it very difficult to date a lizard that's heavier than him. A lizard shouldn't be heavier than her man. You know what I'm saying? An 85 for those listeners, that's like 190 to 200 pounds on a 5'8" woman. So I can see how the black bashing is starting if they're getting to that level. It's getting endemic, man. Like people are just slacking off. And as you said, you don't see them in the gym. When I lived in Miami, where I was at, the gym was jammed with what I'm saying, Hispanic lizard jammed. It was jammed like they were playing some kind of Viva Loca. Like the place was jammed, I'm telling you. But black lizard, you could count them on like a Ninja Turtle hand, and that's 4 fingers, bro. Like you could, what I'm saying, you're not even getting five in there because it's just, what I'm saying, if standards are not upheld by certain communities, their lizards just go to pot, man. And I'm a big guy, so I can take a little more. But for the smaller built guys, what I'm saying, I think 85 kilos, I'm saying 190 to 200 pounds is really, it's not acceptable, man. It's just not acceptable. And the older black lizards actually sneer at that and say, "What's wrong with you lot? Like, why are you letting yourself go like that?" You know what I'm saying? Don't you have any sense of pride for yourself? So it's crazy, man. It's wild. So that's interesting, man. That's very interesting.
I
Um,
do. I have two things I just want to quickly say. Particularly about fashion. Talk about. I don't know how you guys dress, but one thing I noticed. is that wearing bright colors really does work well. I mean, I'm just saying that maybe light blue, orange, even pink if you're brave enough, or purple if not so brave. It really matches dark skin. I know this is a minor thing. You guys probably clocked onto this too, but if you're working in an office or whatever, if you wear those colors that naturally suit you and they're brighter, it can help just to soften the image a little bit. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but
List that again, because I'm really not that adventurous with colors, but I'm always looking to expand that. I know pink. Pink's been mentioned. I think there's a tie that goes with a pink shirt. What was the other color?
Purple,
purple,
purple.
light blue, and orange.
Orange. What if you're saying dark skin? Are we talking snipes? What if you're not a snipe? What if you're mid range? What would those colors still work?
Is my picture there? Is it on the Skype thing?
I see your
Yeah,
picture. You're not snipes, but you're not. You're kind
but
of
he's wearing
bet.
purple though. The color suits him. He's wearing
Is
purple,
it purple or blue? It looked like blue to me. Or is my lights off?
Purple. Purple.
Damn, I need to turn my lights on
yeah,
then.
new laptop mate.
Oh, I need to wear some glasses for real now,
You should
innit?
throw out that Dell you're using. Now,
um,
to your Dark Knight, to your question, I am in 100% accordance to what you're saying there, and I think any black skin tone, colors like orange, purple, the blues, and the pinks, they're warm skin tones, and they're skin tones that work well with most black shades of skin. Orange is a, I have quite a few orange tops. I have an orange, what do you call it, gillet or a vest for those in North America. And I try and incorporate more colors into my wardrobe. Typically, in the past, I wore a lot of black, and I don't think wearing all black is probably the most flattering of colors, right? So I do agree with you, and I appreciate that tip, right?
Yeah, and the second thing is, I think I don't know if there's any young black guys listening in the early 20s like me, but I just say, I think there's a lot of pressure in the community to behave a certain way, to adhere to a certain thing, and there's a lot of group think, right? And a lot of people, if you don't fit the stereotype, if you do things which are a bit strange, or acting white, as it were, don't be swayed. As in, there'll be a lot of people who will say that, but be brave and listen to what you want to do, not what your friends or even your family tell you what to do. If you think it's good for you and you believe in it, give it a try, right? Believe in yourself. You're going to get a lot of stick and it's going to hurt, but you're not a sellout just because you want to go and speak properly or read a book or you don't want to go. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. That's like my take home message is don't just follow. I mean, do what you want to do. As long as it doesn't cause harm, do it. That's it. I know it
Touche,
sounds funny.
touche. Nope, beautiful. Well said. Well said. I have one last question for you. So, I was in the UK what was it, last September on holiday, and I've told this to several people, and I was walking around central London. I had a Canon DSLR around my neck, and I found a lot of people were staring at me. And um, a friend and I, we went into Selfridges being one of these upscale department stores, and he bought something and was walking around with a fairly large Selfridges bag. And my friend, he's from Canada, so he doesn't really know about Selfridges and all this kind of stuff. And he was saying to me, "Why is everybody looking at him and looking at the bag?" And he just noticed too that I guess there's a lot of hardship in London. Um, I don't know if you can, expand on that. Well, if I was to raise those issues with you, would you agree? Would you disagree? Or what are
I'd
your
agree,
thoughts?
I'd agree fully with that. Yeah, there is a lot of hardship in London. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of people, because the way England is organized, a lot of the major industries like retail and population density is focused in London. So if you're young and you work in retail, admin, office type work, you're probably going to work in London, right? But what happens is when you have so many people trying to get a job in one place, it means rent gets high, and it also means quality of life goes down as well. So people struggle a lot. So people are crammed like 20 people into a two-bedroom flat. You hear stories of like this in the news every week. where like 20 people are in a basement, and that, that's just how it is. So there is a lot of hardship in London. A lot of wealth, Arabs, Russians, old school English people who still stay in London. They got a lot of money to spend going to Selfridges, and then you're going to see an absolute mass of people who are just struggling to get by. 50, 60, 70% of their wages go straight to rent, and then they have very little remaining.
So it's a huge disparity between the rich and the poor there. But obviously, North people outside will look and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna love it in London," because they only see what the rich people show them. When you talk about excessive people in the basement, are these the gypsies and the Romanians rammed in there? Or are we talking even London natives are jammed up, like black and white Londoners are all jammed up into a basement?
It's mainly Eastern European immigrants and Bengalis. But the thing about East London, it's very hard because it's so culturally traditional. It's very hard in many ways to tell who's born there and who isn't, because they all speak Bengali and they teach the children the language. It's very hard. You know what I mean?
Okay, okay. Yeah, East London. I'm not a big East London fan, to be honest. I kind of dated a lizard that was living there, and I was very happy to quickly jump on the tube and rush back to South because I looked there and I was like, nah, I can't be living. I just didn't, that flavor just wasn't for me, man. We get territorial in London. So what's the solution for those living? Because expenses are going up. I still obviously I have friends, family there that I talk to, and the tales of woe just continue. So for a progressively minded person, and Rude Boy can loan to a few things. He mentioned that he's got people that they don't go nowhere. I don't know if they're not going anywhere because they're just in a rat hamster mentality, or is it just a case of cost? Because a lot of people may say, "Oh, you flung out." Not saying you flung it out, but they'll look at it like you flung out 800 quid to just hop over to New Zealand. They might be like, "Nah, that's long, man. I could use that for this, and the third." So they may look at that as not money well spent. What would be the solution then? Should they move out and move into Europe and look for greener pastures, or what's the deal? I heard Ireland's economy is improving. Should they move up to Ireland? What would your take on that be?
I would say, I mean, I was doing it for my course, so I was getting training when I was in New Zealand. I was getting training, so it helped in terms of getting a job after. So it was an investment, so it returned on investment was okay. But I would say to anyone, what I did, I tried to find out what I wanted to gain in the next couple of years. I sat down, turned off my phone, and said, what do I want to do, as a career or in life, or what do I want to achieve, right? Cut that down into four or five bullet points, and then say, okay, this is what I want. Is the place where I am now matching up to where I want to be in 3, 4, 5, 10 years time? If the answer is no, you're gonna have to look around and say, okay, maybe the internet, the forum, podcast, YouTube, friends and family, and find out places that they've been to that kind of line up with what you want to get out of life. So for me, I know for a fact I don't want to be in a big city like London, getting my lungs full of soot and carbon and getting asthma or whatever, COPD or whatever. So I'd say when I get older, I would rather go to even East Africa. I'll go back to my mom's homeland, East Africa. I know a little bit of Swahili. I'll go there and I'll stay there. And I've got family there. I'll stay there for a period of time. Or I'll go there on holiday at least every 2 years, 3 years to reconnect and to get away. Um, so I think that's the best way for me. I can't talk about other people, but that's just the way I would play it. Sit down and find out what you want to do and which places would best match up. That's it. That's what I would do. I don't know.
Gain a familiarity. Are there any places in Europe that people may look into? Like I spoke to a cousin and I mentioned Germany. He was like, "Bun Germany." He was just had that London. There's a lot of Londoners like, "No, no, it's London. London is it?" I've heard great things actually about East Africa. Many countries are really popping beyond where people would assume. A lot of people just think Africa is just AIDS and a bunch of people with AIDS everywhere, but it's all obviously Western bullshit. But East Africa's popping. I know people that have moved there from the UK because London ain't is really not saying much in my opinion. That's why I got out, and everyone was like, "That was one of the smartest things you did," and I have not regretted it. But Europe wise, is Germany? I know Greece is out of the question, but is Germany? Is Germany a good point or no? Or you're not sure?
Well, all I can say is a friend of mine, a lady friend, she went in December and she said that there is actually some pretty heavy racism. Like, to be honest, England, out of all the European countries, is clearly the most accepting. And I don't know if you agree with that, but I mean, France is not accepting at all. Although black people I saw in Paris, they were not doing high quality jobs, and there's none of them in government. You know what I mean? So if you want to see how people are progressing, look at the government and see how many members of parliament or whatever you see, and the population that are black or whatever. And if there's a big gap, you have to say to yourself, something ain't right here.
You it's like there's telepathy, like you got some kind of telepathic ability, and I've said this so many times, and people are just like, I agree so much with you. That's why it for me, when I left, I'm like, you know what, I've always asserted that England is the most tolerant place in Europe for a black person. I can only speak for a black person. I can't speak for any other ethnic group because I don't represent and I don't look like any other ethnic group. But I've always thought when I went to Paris, as you've mentioned, I was so shocked. I used to love the French culture. I used to read my Asterix books. I read my Tintin books. Tintin's from Belgium, but it was the same thing to me. And I was just like, wow, I always thought that France would be parallel with the UK in terms of tolerance and everything. And back in the days, you had American artists that actually used to go to France because they thought they were better received. So I had the opportunity to go to France very cheap. Met one of my friends there who lived in the UK, but because he did a course in France, he was fluent. So that was an easier transition because we could go around and he just talk French and this and the other. But when we went there, I was so it was like a culture shock because the black people there were all doing menial work, and there was tons of them there. It's not like there's a few. These people
Yeah.
been there. They look like they scraped them off of that refugee boat yesterday. Yesterday, I'm saying, why is this guy looking? He's wearing some shirt that was riding up his forearms to his elbows. I'm like, this is the epicenter of fashion. This guy looks like he came in yesterday, and they had this thing where if I go and talk to someone, if I walk up to someone, it's almost like, oh, you can't go and talk to them like that. I'm thinking, dude, I'm of the West, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I found it very peculiar that this was never represented. You don't see it in the media and so on and so forth. But that is as a sad truth. And I'm not an intimidating. I don't go around with the race card on my shoulder. I don't go looking for trouble. But if there is something there, I'm not going to pretend it doesn't exist. I will go anywhere. I'm open to anyone. I'm human first. You know what I'm saying? But I can only mention, and it's funny that you mentioned that I saw the same thing. So when people such as my good friend Rude Boy, he mentions going to Europe. I don't. The lizards are gorgeous, but I gotta live. I gotta eat, and I don't want to be demoted to be someone that's only fit to sweep up your warehouse, to be very honest, because I am educated and I can't uneducate myself. So I see myself on a higher plateau. Rude Boy, would you say your experiences in Europe has felt that, or would you feel that your experience with lizards have been so positive that it overrides this possibility that the Dark Knight has alluded to?
Well, first of all, to rewind back to the Germany thing, Germany, I would never say is a country that I could live in. I passed through there twice. I think I spoke about this in my first podcast where I was dating a girl who lived in Czech Republic, but she was closer to the German border, so I would fly into Nuremberg and then take the train in across the border to visit her. So it was easier for me to go that route as opposed to flying to Prague. First time coming back Sunday afternoon, I spoke about how I was on a crowded platform in on German soil, and Sunday afternoon, all these I guess Germans were going back to their wherever they were going, and two undercover cops came up to me. One was kind of sort of making sure that I guess, wouldn't run, and the other one was kind of like, can I see your documents? And found it a bit strange, but as I scanned the platform, I was the only, I guess, person of color, and a bit annoyed. I mean, because obviously, I don't know. I guess they assumed that maybe I was trying to smuggle myself into Germany, and they seemed very disappointed when I pulled out the British passport. It also happened to me a second time at the same place, and this time I was ready for it. And I had one of those delicious German hot dogs in my mouth, and basically I handed them the wallet and I told them, "Help yourself." And they seemed a little bit taken back by that. And then when they gave me back the passport, I said something to them, "Oh, you didn't find what you're looking for," and I guess they didn't seem too impressed with that. So, in answer to your question, I mean, there is no mecca, I don't think, for for the black male. I think whether you're in United States, Canada, England, Germany, Sweden, I think education. Obviously, both of you gentlemen are university educated. You found um, places where you can work. Um, uh, in you were mentioning about my experiences in Europe. Obviously, when I go to, say, for example, when I went to Sweden, I've stayed in the best hotels. When I've been to every country that I go travel to, I stay in 4-star, 5-star accommodation. Even in Sweden, which is a more liberal place, you got the looks. And again, the same story I mentioned with the DSLR camera when I was taking pictures in Stockholm. People just seem to give me a second look, right?
But my question, sorry, not to intervene too much, Rude Boy. Which country is moving to Europe at this point in time for you? Is this um is this a realistic option?
Yeah, and I agree with
And if it is, which country in Europe would be is number one? And you could list the number two for you,
Oh
but
no,
which is number
I
one?
think England is still number one because I think, as Dark Knight mentioned, and many people have said that England is more tolerable than any other country. Let's face it, I'm not going to go to Spain and get a job with the government or any of these other countries. These countries, German, Germany is for German peoples. They don't come out and say that, but that is generally the rule of thumb, right? Whereas countries like Canada and United States, these are immigrant countries, right? So, technically they're for everyone as long as you work hard and, you know, put your head down and, that kind of stuff, right? But England for me would always be the number one. And
Is there
unfortunately,
is there a number
I,
two?
I don't know. They're all number two if you ask me, but I mean, um, the, the thing is like, sorry, I got off track here. With any of these countries, it's about education. It's about finding a niche. It's about making money, right? So if you can make money in the States, then so be it, right? But I mean, obviously, the U.S. has a lot of political stuff going on right now, which really doesn't appeal to me, right? So, my family, we had an option to go to the U.S. many years ago, and because of the political history, my dad chose Canada, right? So, not to say Canada isn't without problems. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of, we have the same issues as what Dark Knight has talked about, right?
I think, to loan to it, I just, you said education need, but I think, in a general sweeping sense, I don't think that the people that move to the blacks that move to those countries are coming there uneducated. A lot of them are coming from, into Europe. A lot of them, as we mentioned before, are coming from Africa. We spoke about different black lizards and so on and so forth, and a larger bulk are coming from Africa because Africa is obviously a large continent with the most black people, and it's closer as well. But they're coming in. But the fact that they're in menial positions in these places is not because of a lack of education or ambition. It's just there's a system there that doesn't allow them to. I don't believe, because I've met people in the UK that, and I didn't know at the time. I was still naive. I'm just London, London. I'm happy. One of the a friend of mine who came from France couldn't speak. His English was very, very poor, obviously, because his background. Either he's born in Cote d'Ivoire, which is Ivory Coast, or his parents are from there. But it makes perfect sense to move to the home colony that you were, that colonized your country, which was France. So he went to France, fluent in French, came to the UK around age of 21, and was starting from scratch. And I said, bro, why are you here struggling in London? You're washing dishes, doing your studies when your French is like fish and water. I always thought that it's the same. So I was like, I'm not going to go France and start again when I'm good with London. But now realizing that he could not, he just felt that, you know what, I can't make it do. Then I'm tired of being subjugated in that sense. Now he's a senior SharePoint administrator, because I keep in touch. I say, what's going on with my man? My friend's like, oh yeah, him, he's doing. I'm like, rare. So this is the levels he's come to in the UK. I have a friend in Toronto, fluent, brought his family over. He's from Cameroon. That's his background, but he's born and raised in Paris. I said, bro, why you come to Canada for? You vivez les France, you have your croissant. Why? He was just like, bro, France? He was very frank. This guy very educated. Now, I don't know if he's doing some kind of project, something, but he has really come along. So he's seen opportunities that are afforded to him in these countries that are not afforded to him there. So loaning back to that, sorry to be long-winded, but to say that I don't think that the situation of the blacks in these countries are due to laziness. When you come from Africa or the Caribbean,
No,
you have
I
not.
didn't say laziness, but also too in France. When you apply for jobs, you have to put your picture on the resume, right? That is
That's like end the
don't have
game.
that. Yeah, end of the game. So you're not even getting the interviews, and I don't know what and I wasn't trying to paint the picture that all Africans are uneducated and all that, because
No,
I
no,
know,
no, no. I'm not
and
alluding to
and
that. Mm-mm.
and to speak to that, I know personally Africans in London, because I used to have a job working in immigration, and I met a lot of guys that were trying to get out of the UK, and these guys had masters from the UK, and a couple of them had masters from their home country, right? And yet, it's a system where they weren't, uh, you know, wasn't too easy for them to get the jobs they wanted in the UK, and the Canadian immigration wasn't necessarily open arms with them, right? And I actually know a lady in Canadian immigration this side who was well aware of the situation, right? So, systematic racism is all over, right?
Yeah, I think the conclusion I would make from that is just like, I personally say, if you can't get it popping in Canada, or at very least, I think America in the West, to be very honest, which is why I came here of free accord, is the best place for a black person, regardless of all the shooting and all that gibberish garbage going on. I see people
But you
doing.
can't call it gibberish and garbage when
I'm not.
it's
I'm not. Yeah, it's not.
like,
It
I mean,
it's a real thing, but it's a real thing. I'm not taking away from that, but we can look at it anywhere. Like, okay, you can say, okay, they're not shooting you in Europe, but you dying slow. You're not even living. If you work in Minu, you're a man. We talk about masculinity. You're a man. You're supposed to be able to handle your family. They come and say, that's daddy, he brings home the bacon, but you there sweeping for next person. Are you even alive? Some people like, you know what, shoot me now, let me die as a lion rather than live as a lamb. You a man. I don't care if you 5'9", 5'8", or you 6'8". You're still a man. You have testosterone. You have testicles that hang beneath. You know what I'm saying? You're in your trousers.
yeah,
You're a
but
man. You're
yeah,
you're
but
you're
also
not alive.
yeah, but also too, I think it's just systematic racism. It's just done in a different form, right?
But but so the question is which is better? You know what I'm saying? Because
In theory, I
I
mean, in
feel that
theory,
you look at, if you look at what's going on, you look at your people that look like you and how far they've gone. I think that is a very active measuring stick to say. Because if I go somewhere like, well, no one's dead, but everyone's sweeping the streets, is that a place I really want to go to? Is that a place I want to go to? I'm just, that's how I look at things.
no, but I mean, like for me, at a personal level, and I think I'm sort of the flip side to you. So when I went back to my native England background, people treated me differently just because of the way I spoke, right? So it was like people actually, I had people saying to me, "Oh, you speak well," and I was like, "It's kind of dumb thing to say, right?" A lot of black English people I find speak well. I don't know. I mean, Dark Knight, he speaks very well, right? You know what I mean? So as opposed to where you now you're an Englishman in America and you've been received differently, right?
Yeah, my thing. I know we've been going off and this and that. I was fine in the UK because I can, I'm a funny guy. I'm intelligent, so, and I'm not a meek little guy. People are like, I like that guy. He's all right. Moment, it's cool. This and that and the third. But my problem is when my eyes are open, I can't close them. I don't want to. If I'm looking on TV and I don't see people that look like me, or I don't see people at a certain level of government, I don't want to settle for anything. I feel that me and you, regardless of your background, we're at least equal. There's nothing you can do that I can't do. If you a scientist and I want to be a scientist, I want to do that. I don't want to be oh yeah, yeah, you should sing rhyme music, you should try football, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I could do that, but I want to be a scientist too. And I didn't see enough of that. So that's the thing. It wasn't a case of being received.
But okay, to my point then, to that point then, I can say the first time I went to New York City, I went to New York City coming from England, you know, grew up in a house all my life, both parents professionals doing well. We used to take 2 months vacation back in the 70s, right? So I went to England now to visit to New York to visit a family friend, right?
Okay.
New York City, garbage, um, higher, taller than you, Mo, and you're over 6 feet, right? I went to my I don't want to say her name, but a family friend's apartment with 8 door locks on the apartment and steel cage in the windows, right?
Okay.
Right. To me, I mean, that's how they're living, and a lot of people live like that, right?
But the thing is, that's New
Is that the
York.
American dream?
The thing is that
I could go to Philly. I could go to
but
any major
you're
city.
listing the urban cities. I wouldn't go. I went to New York to see if I wanted to do it because I can go. My mentality is I'm a human being with legs. I'm not a tree. Wherever you put me is not where I have to stay. When I came to the US, I'm like, where do I want to live? I can live in Puerto Rico. I can live in the US Virgin Islands. I can live in Hawaii, Alaska. They're all privy to me because of because I'm now resident of the US. So I went to New York and I said, you know what? This is like London. There's too many people here. The apartments are too small. It's too dirty. So I'm like, no, then let me try Texas. So the point I'm making is that just because you didn't like New York doesn't mean that the entire there's people in America that won't move to New York that I talk to here. They're like, no, no, no. Just because you don't like New York.
On the flip side, I know we have family friends that live in Mount Vernon, and they live very, very well. So there's two sides to every coin, right?
Right, but what are the two sides to Europe? I'd love to have people on here, a group, not one successful person, one black European that's like, yeah, it's popping in Italy. I love Italy. Like I get badge, all my peoples, them, we all get jobs in government. I'd love to see that because I don't believe that's true. You got the football player Balotelli. The guy was born there, and them not treat him like he's a rat.
Yeah,
He didn't even get citizenship.
Montreal.
Yeah, they didn't even get the guy is a brilliant football player, soccer player to North American. He didn't even get citizenship of his own country. He was born in Italy. Didn't get it till he's 18. And this guy, imagine Michael Jordan, born in
Okay, but let me
America.
answer. Let me answer that question though. But Italy has high unemployment, right? Italy is one of the big countries, right? Portugal, Italy, Greece, Spain. there's no economy there, right? Even for the Italians. So it's probably not a known fact, but born Italian males, what do? A lot of them are stealing their grandparents' pension. They live at home, and there's no real economy. So are they really going to take Africans or any minorities? No. I mean, the minorities are coming across the Mediterranean and they're heading straight for the UK. They're not even staying in France, right? UK with you go there, they have the social system in place, right? You can get an apartment, you can get money, you can live in Italy and Spain and all these countries. They're dying in the Mediterranean, right? So there's not even jobs there for the local people. So never mind the foreigners. You took at Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe has nothing. Girls would rather be, or people from Hungary, Poland, these places, they'd rather work in a pub in London because they're going to make more money, and there's more opportunity
but
for
but
them in their home country,
but
right?
the thing that
So
was
how do you
the
expect as a foreigner,
but
as an
he's not a foreigner. He was born there. You can tell a foreigner by talking to them. The guy was born in Italy. I'm just giving you an
well, that's
example
one
of the
case.
mentality.
Most of the Africans born in Italy are not doing anything, are they?
Yeah, but it's due to mentality.
As
It's not. It's
opposed
not.
to,
It's not.
Yeah,
It's not the
I have to,
economy. It's
I
not the
have to agree with
economy.
Momo on that, man. Momo, you're right because I remember there was a story last year during the World Cup, and the Italian fans were singing in the stadium. There's no such thing as a black Italian while he was playing football for the country. So you got to say, Momo, you have a point because that's what they did last year.
Yeah, that's just to me. I was just like, you know what? I'm tired of that because no one would listen to me. No one has ever me being in the UK and said, nah, nah, you're not a London man. They know, people know now. They can talk to me. I was working in Toronto. The guy was, white guy from Walthamstow. As soon as he heard me on the phone, I was doing sales. He goes, "What's that, mate? That's a South London act." He knew exactly. They know me, so no one looks at me and says, "Nah, you're an immigrant." But once your eyes are opened, you can't close them, and that was one of the things I said. You know what? Let me try America because with all that, at least they're showing me their hand. At least they're like, get out of my face. But you know what I'm saying. But at least it's a case of, and I'm not painting it like it's this big majestic place. It's kind of like you pick your poison. But I'm just saying that at least I'd rather have an honest enemy than a false friend. And I think here they're obvious when they do something. When they pop an innocent minority, their cover up stories are so weak. I just start laughing. I laugh. They're like, "Oh, this and that happened." I'm like, really, is that your final answer? Is that how you're delivering it? I'm like, wow, the audacity of it. But I'm like, you know what? You guys are showing it how it is, and I feel that black minorities have
But
done.
but the honest enemy is killing you, man. I mean, like he's
They're
shooting you. Trayvon Martin. I mean, the list goes on. I
rude
mean,
boy,
like
rude boy. They're
you
killing.
know,
They're killing off people everywhere. As I
how far
said,
did you? How far do you live from where Trayvon was killed? How far do you
I'm
live?
I'm I'm miles away. That guy lives in like I'm
That
miles. I'm not nowhere near that
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 was
that
in
part
Florida.
of.
That
I'm
was in Florida.
It was in Florida, but I'm miles away from that. Like that's another what do you call it? Not state, but it's a whole different province. But the point that I'm making is that I'd rather have the chance to live as a man than live as a mouse. And if in Europe you have to conform, the black Americans in America, some of them are like, no, I'm gonna be who I am because you lot have let me know. They're saying you lot as the majority, whoever, you've let me know where I stand and I'm gonna do it. And I respect them for that. That's why even though I say this and that and the third, I respect them for actually saying, let me do something for ours than rather saying we have to conform. Because if you don't do what the Dark Knight said in the UK, you're cooked. You can't come to know. You cannot. He has to. This is not. He has to be smart because if he's not, he's less than a rat there. I know I was there. You have to play it smart. You have to look at the glasses. You have to soften your look or your stomach's going to be growling. You're not even at stage one.
Yeah, but that is applies to Canada, and I think it applies to the U.S. as well. I
Mm,
mean,
well,
Canada, you can't come in too slick to that, and I know that firsthand, right? You have to, and the guys that I know that are working on a personal level, they tend to be not like us. Let's put it that way.
in Canada, from my observation, I saw more black managers, young ones, not someone old and decrepit, but more black managers than I'd ever seen in London in my life. And I noticed that immediately. One of my managers was a young Bayesian, like he was like 38, out of Bayesian descent. I saw I had a Jamaican. She was probably 40 or 41. Jamaican female that was a manager. I saw a lot of these instances in Canada, and I use my eyes to determine how well certain people are doing. America, you got you got whole heap. You got people that like Master P. You got the Cubes and all them who don't even Master P. Don't even bother to sound like he's polished. The guy, but the guy has money because the system is designed where you don't have to conform to do your thing. So those are the things I look at. I look at what's happening, what appears to be working. I can't just say you're getting shot. I don't know, man. I just kind of
I
I'd rather
you
have
know
the
what?
chance. I'd
I
rather have a
disagree,
chance.
but I disagree because you're using Master P as an example, which I don't think is a good example. But you know what? Let's agree to disagree. Uh, I think Dark Knight. Any other thoughts on the UK that you'd like to add?
No, not much. It's a pretty. If you pick it, as I said before, it's a pretty safe country. There's not many murders, to be honest. Um, it's a repressed culture. It's still repressed. I mean, English, especially in the south of England, more stoic. They don't really show you what they feel. It's very hard to know what's in their head until you get a pint down them, and then you get this. Alcohol really helps loosen them up. But other than that, it's a pretty safe place. You're not going to see many shootings, and yeah, it's a pretty safe place. Not the most exciting of places, but it's a pretty safe place. And I think Canada's the same as well. Not many murders or shootings and stuff like that.
No, no, you won't get shot in Canada,
Yeah.
Yeah.
unlike the US.
Yeah, I mean, you lot are right. The comparative, and you've seen me right on the issue. I mean, the culture in America, unfortunately, they believe in the right to bear arms, and there's this celebrity obsessed status. So a lot of people will just pop someone with the shot with the gun just to get on the news, even if it's for that 50 minutes of fame before they get blown away. So it's this movie driven society. So if you throw in guns into the mix, unfortunately, it's definitely a part of life. And the countries that you've listed, obviously Canada is a Commonwealth country, England is the country, and then you've got Australia, New Zealand. The Queen's overview is kind of to chill out with all that shooting each other. America just does an entire. It's like that rebel. So you're gonna get it there. But yeah, I mean you're right. It's safe in those places, and you pick your poison. Some people would rather go to the front line and see how it happens. Roll a gamble, and others would prefer to hedge their bets and just play it safe and kind of play it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's all about picking what you feel that your temperament would align with, and that's pretty much how I see it. I can't say this is for everyone. It's definitely Rude Boy doesn't feel it's for him, and it's full entitlement to that. It's just just questions really. But yeah, I mean, we could go on forever, but let's we can conclude for now, I guess, unless there's anything else to add to it. Is there?
No, no, I'm
Dark,
happy.
Yeah,
Dark
yeah.
Knight, pleasure having you. We've been looking for someone from the UK for a long time, and you came in. You added some great value, and maybe down the road we'll have you back again.
Must have you back because you've seriously dropped you've dropped stuff that I had notes that I wanted to go into, but then there's other areas that kind of expanded on, and we could just keep this running for like forever. But yeah, we definitely want to have you back on, man. Your insights are definitely gold, and it's amazing. So I just like to thank you for coming aboard.
No problem.
And if that's all, this is MoMA signing off. It's been another great podcast.
Rude Boy out.
All right, peace.